What if I told you that the place where you feel your money is the safest might actually be slowly making you poorer? Right now, millions of people are arguing about one question. Should I put my money into Tagesgeld or Festgeld? Flexible. Interest or fixed interest? Daily access or locked for 1 year? But almost nobody is asking the deeper question, is my money truly safe there? Because safety is not about seeing a stable number in your bank account. Safety is about protecting your purchasing power. Safety is about surviving economic cycles. Safety is about thinking long-term. Let me take you back for a moment. There is one investor who has studied economic cycles more deeply than almost anyone else. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the largest hedge funds in the world. He didn't become successful by chasing high interest rates at banks. He became successful by understanding how the economic machine works. He explains the economy in a very simple way. The economy is not random. It moves in cycles. There are short-term cycles, typically 5 to 10 years. There are long-term debt cycles, sometimes lasting 50 to 75 years. The short-term economies boom. People get jobs. Credit is easy. Asset prices rise. Optimism spreads. Then comes the slowdown, recession, fear, credit tightens, companies cut costs, markets fall. But behind this, there is something even more powerful. The long-term debt cycle. Governments borrow more. Companies borrow more. Households borrow more. Debt grows faster than income. At some point, the system cannot sustain itself without central banks stepping in. What do central banks do when the economy weakens? They lower interest rates. They print money. They inject liquidity. And what happens when too much money chases too few goods? Inflation. Now let's connect this to your savings account. Imagine you have 20,000 euros in a Tagesgeld account earning 2.5% interest. Sounds safe, right? Your bank app shows your money growing slowly. You feel responsible. But if inflation is 4%, you are losing 1.5% of purchasing power every single year. Quietly. Invisibly. After 10 years, the number in your account is higher. But what you can buy with that money is less. This is the difference between nominal safety and real safety. Nominal safety means the number doesn't go down. Real safety means your purchasing power is protected. This is where most people get confused. Tagesgeld gives you flexibility. You can access your money anytime. The interest rate changes depending on the market. Festgeld locks your money for a fixed period, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and gives you a slightly higher fixed rate. Both seem safe. And technically, within deposit insurance limits, they are safe from bank failure. But they are not safe from inflation. They are not safe from currency debasement. They are not safe from long-term purchasing power erosion. Now think about how wealthy investors approach this. Do they hold most of their wealth in bank accounts? No, they hold productive assets. Companies, real estate, businesses, intellectual property, assets that generate cash flow. Assets that can adjust to inflation. When inflation rises, strong companies raise prices. When currencies weaken, global. Businesses earn in multiple currencies. When interest rates fall, asset prices often rise. Cash does not adapt. It just sits there. But let's be balanced here. Cash has a purpose. Smart investors do not ignore cash. They respect it. But they use it strategically. Cash is for liquidity. Cash is for emergencies. Cash is for opportunities. If you lose your job, you need cash. If the market crashes and assets become cheap, you need cash. If an unexpected expense appears, you need cash. But cash is not a long-term wealth-building tool. Think about it like this. Imagine 2 friends. Thomas keeps 50,000 euros in Festgeld for 5 years at 3% interest. He feels safe. He sleeps well. No volatility. No stress. Julia invests 50,000 euros into a diversified global stock portfolio. The first year, the market drops 20%. She feels uncomfortable, but she stays disciplined. Over 5 years, the average return is 7% per year. At the end of 5 years, Julia's purchasing power has grown significantly. Thomas barely kept up. With inflation, who was safer? In the short term, Thomas felt safer. In the long term, Julia was financially safer. Now let's talk about recessions. Every recession creates fear. Headlines scream crisis. People move money into cash. Banks suddenly look attractive again. But what always happens after recession? Recovery. Look at history. After the financial crisis of 2008, markets eventually reached new highs. After the pandemic crash in 2020, markets recovered faster than most people expected. Why? Because productive economies adapt. Innovation continues. Human productivity grows. The global economy today is larger, more advanced, and more productive than 30 years ago. If you own diversified shares of global businesses, you participate in that growth. If you only hold cash, you stand on the sidelines. Now let's address what middle-class savers often do wrong. They focus on small interest differences. They compare 2.3% versus 2.6%. They switch banks for a 0.2% bonus rate. They lock money for 1 year because the rate is slightly higher. But they ignore the big picture, long-term real returns. They think avoiding volatility equals avoiding risk. But volatility is not risk. Permanent loss of purchasing power is risk. Another mistake is emotional timing. When markets are high, they feel confident and invest. When markets fall, they panic and sell. Then they run back to cash. This behavior destroys wealth. Smart investors do the opposite. They invest consistently. They understand cycles. They rebalance. They stay diversified. They don't try to predict the next crisis perfectly. They prepare for it structurally. Let's bring it back to Tagesgeld versus Festgeld. Tagesgeld is flexible. It makes sense for your emergency fund. It makes sense when interest rates are rising and you want flexibility. Festgeld makes sense if you know you will not need the money for a specific time and the rate is attractive relative to inflation. But neither is a replacement for owning productive assets. If you are 30 years old and your entire net worth is in bank accounts, you are playing defense in a game that rewards offense. If you are 50 and close to retirement, your strategy might be more balanced, more stability, more income focus. Even then, completely avoiding productive assets can be dangerous because retirement can last 30 years. Inflation over 30 years can cut purchasing power dramatically. Now think globally. Governments around the world carry enormous debt levels. Debt rarely gets reduced by strict austerity alone. Historically, it gets reduced through growth, inflation, or financial repression, meaning low interest rates that keep savers earning less than inflation. In such an environment, holding too much cash long-term is risky. The wealthy understand this. That is why they own assets. They diversify across countries. They own companies that sell worldwide. They hold a mix of equities, maybe some bonds, maybe some real estate. They think in decades, not quarters. They also manage risk. They don't put everything into one stock. They don't chase hype. They build systems. Automatic investing. Regular savings plans. Asset allocation rules. Rebalancing. Once or twice a year, discipline beats emotion. First, calculate your monthly expenses. Multiply by 3 to 6. That amount belongs in flexible cash, likely Tagesgeld. Second, define your time horizon. Money needed within 1 year should stay stable. Money for long-term goals, retirement, financial independence should work in productive assets. Third, diversify globally. A broad global index fund can represent thousands of companies across multiple countries and sectors. Fourth, always think in real returns. If your investment earns 6% and inflation is 3%, your real gain is about 3%. Fifth, accept volatility as the price of long-term growth. Without short-term fluctuations, there is usually no long-term reward. And finally, stop thinking of your bank account as your wealth strategy. It is a tool, not the engine. The engine of wealth is ownership. Ownership of productive businesses. Ownership of innovation, ownership of global growth. Tagesgeld and Festgeld are about liquidity and short-term stability. They are not about long-term prosperity. Your money represents your time, your energy, your life effort. Don't let it slowly melt without realizing it. True safety is not hiding from economic cycles. True safety is understanding them and positioning yourself intelligently within them. There will be booms. There will be recessions. There will be inflation phases. There will be crises. This is normal. This is the rhythm of the system. But if you build a balanced structure, cash for stability, productive assets for growth, diversification for resilience, you don't need to fear cycles. You use them. The question was, Tagesgeld or Festgeld? Where is your money really safe? The deeper answer is this. Your money is safe when it is aligned with economic reality, when it protects purchasing power, when it is diversified, and it participates in growth. Don't chase the illusion of safety. Build real financial strength. If this perspective helped you see your savings differently, then take a moment today. Review your accounts. Define your strategy. Move from passive saver to intelligent investor. Because in the long run, wealth is not built by interest rates alone. It is built by understanding, patience, discipline, and ownership. And that is where your money is truly safe.